Welcome to Discovering True Health, where our goal is to provide you with cutting-edge health information through research, interviews with experts, and personal journeys to true health. Our message is a message of hope and healing, and our mission is to bring you on a journey to discovering true health, to not only find wellness, but to thrive. Hello, and welcome to Discovering True Health, your weekly deep dive into health and wellness. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all our upcoming shows. You can also check out additional information on our website, Instagram, and Facebook. All those links are below. So today we'll be learning about how to discover true health during the difficult menopausal years. We'll be learning about the 3 phases of menopause and covering the basics of each. And we'll be getting into a few of the specific symptoms around hair, skin, and those hot flashes that happen during these 3 phases, and some natural and effective solutions to reclaim our health from menopause and get our glow back during this phase of our lives. So my guest today is Allison Blad. She's a registered nutritional therapist specializing in female health, specifically around midlife and menopause. And in her work, she helps women reclaim their health with natural and safe nutrition and lifestyle solutions to regain vitality and confidence during perimenopause and menopause, helping them to get their sparkle back. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. That's lovely for you to say that. And yeah, the sparkle, I just love that, because we should be sparkly. You know, that's get your sparkle back. That's really my motto. But yeah, thank you so much. It's lovely to be on here talking to you today.
And you definitely have the sparkle. So you're living proof that it's possible. Now, I'd love to start with hearing a little about your journey. And you have an extensive background in education with your work, and I only kind of scratched the surface with my introduction. Can you share with us a bit of your journey into health and wellness and into the field, and what led you to specialize in helping women in their midlife transition?
Yes, I started my career journey as an esthetician. So beauty therapist or esthetician, and I specialized in women's skin health during menopause, perimenopause, and postmenopause, because when I was growing up as a teenager, I myself suffered from acne, very bad skin due to hormones, because obviously through puberty, you know, you have imbalances in hormones. And it was an area that I was very interested in. So working as an esthetician, I found that a lot of the ladies that came to see me were coming into perimenopause, and they'd all of a sudden started to develop skin problems such as acne, pigmentation, etc. And it was so distressing for these ladies. And the more I got speaking to them, the more I realized that they didn't have any support. They felt totally, lost. There was no real answers to how they felt. And working on their skin as an esthetician, I really found you could get the skin to a certain level, but there was a piece missing, and that was the nutritional side. So it's kind of the outside and the inside. And when these women changed the way that they ate and maybe some lifestyle modifications, the skin improved drastically. So that's what triggered me to go back to university and study to be a nutritional therapist. And also seeing as I grew up, I remember my mother and her friends, they went through perimenopause and menopause, and they really suffered, and nobody would talk about it. It was a bit of a taboo subject. You don't talk about that, you just get on with it. Mm-hmm. And really suffering. And that was really the reason that I'm very passionate about helping women through this stage of life, because we're amazing when we get into this age. Think how wise and knowledgeable midlife women are. So we should also feel and look amazing. Absolutely. So that's really my reason why I'm where I am. And I have my own online clinic working specifically one-to-one with women to improve their health and help them, support them through these difficult times.
I absolutely agree. And that's such a great point. It does kind of always seem like a taboo subject, or it's something that's not really spoken about. I mean, you know, I don't know if maybe some mothers do speak about it with their children, but it seems like it's not something we talk about or learn about till we're actually in the middle of it and going through it. Like, oh no, what's happening? So on today's show, we are going to talk all about it, and we're going to learn all about it in 3 phases, and we're going to learn about some ways to help us during that time in our lives. So now there are 3 phases to this life transition for women, and it marks the end of our menstrual cycle. And the 3 phases are perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. So let's first get into some of the basics of what each of those are, because I think it's important for us. A lot of us, including myself, didn't even know there are 3 phases. So let's start with perimenopause. So what's kind of the basic definition of perimenopause? What is the approximate age range that is, where this phase can start? How long does it last? And what are some of the symptoms to look out for?
Okay, yeah. So perimenopause, as you said, Christy, there's perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. And perimenopause is the beginning. That's when the hormones start to fluctuate, your estrogen and your progesterone, the female sex hormones. And this starts, it's hard to say exactly what age this starts, but on average around 45. However, it can start earlier. It's very individual, but on average 45. So your hormone levels start to go up and down. They start to behave a bit strangely. So it isn't that your estrogen levels are just declining gradually. In perimenopause, they can, 1 month your estrogen levels can be really high, and then the following month they can be low, and your progesterone can be all over the place. So it's a bit, if you look on a diagram how they describe perimenopause, it's a bit like a roller coaster. So it's understandable when you see that why you can start having anxiety and mood swings and behaving a bit crazy, because your hormones are all over the place. So this phase can last for roughly 5 to 6 years. And gradually you will move into what we call menopause. Average age of menopause is 51 to 52 years old. Again, this is very varied. It's very, very individual. It's down to where you live, your lifestyle, race, everything. So it's difficult to say exactly when this will happen. And menopause is when you haven't had a menstruation. So when you haven't had a period for a year straight, then you are in menopause. So if you don't have any menstruation for 8 months and then you menstruate, you're still in perimenopause. So you have to have a whole year without actually having a menstruation, then you're in menopause. So that means that you are no longer producing eggs, you're no longer fertile. And then after menopause, so when you've stopped menstruating, you're then in what we call postmenopause. And postmenopause is the stage where you produce very little estrogen. Your ovaries aren't producing estrogen anymore. There's other areas of the body that produce a small amount of estrogen. And this is the phase that you will be in, we live much longer now. So women can be in this phase for 30 years. Whereas, hundreds of years ago, women didn't live much longer than menopausal age. Oh. So the quality, it's so important now that we have a quality of life in these years after, because 30 years is, and it could have been more than 30 years, is a long time, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long time. And so during the first phase, perimenopause, so we can still get pregnant during that phase because we're still essentially ovulating, and it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. You're still having periods, you're still ovulating, you are still fertile. Your fertility drops considerably, after the age of 40. However, you can get pregnant. So yes, absolutely. You really can get pregnant until you absolutely stop having periods. So when you've been in menopause and you haven't had menstruation for a year, then you're not producing any more eggs, so it would be quite difficult to get pregnant naturally.
Right. So, and now what are a few, I know I've seen lists of like 36 symptoms of perimenopause. What are a few of the symptoms like coming into perimenopause to kind of look out for, so we can kind of have an awareness around, because you said the age range can fluctuate. I've seen online, even in your early 30s or mid 30s, it can start, but really, like you said, it depends on each person. So some kind of like symptom we could be aware of to be like, oh, this might be something I need to check out and see if I'm going into this phase.
Yes, there are many others, like you say, there's lists that you can see that have over 40 different symptoms. But one point actually that you made then, Chrissy, that I'd like to bring up is there is something called premature menopause. And this is, you shouldn't go into menopause under the age of 40. And there's something called primary ovarian insufficiency. And this is where a woman would go into menopause at a younger age, so younger than 40 years old. I mean, it can happen to young girls, in their 20s. And this obviously is devastating. I mean, it's terrible for these women to go through this because, they become infertile, etc. But that is a completely different conversation. But I just wanted to bring that up because there are women, I think 1% of women will have premature menopause, which is, you can go into premature menopause due to, if you had to have a hysterectomy when you were younger, or certain medications, certain cancer treatments, etc., can affect the ovaries and stop the ovary function. So that is a terrible thing for women, but it's basically you go through menopause, but at a very young age due to other circumstances. And the primary ovarian insufficiency is, in research, we don't really understand why that happens yet. But it's like I say, it's terrible and very, very distressing for women to have to go through that at a young age. But sorry, getting back, I went off on talking about that, but getting back to your question about symptoms. So perimenopause, the one that we all know is the hot flushes, or I think in the US you call them hot flashes, don't you?
I was noticing that you call them hot flushes and we call them hot flashes.
And that is really common. 75% of women will suffer from hot flashes. And then you've got your things like mood swings is very common, irritability, anxiety, dryness of the skin, weight gain, getting weight around the abdominal area, lack of concentration, brain fog. I mean, the list goes on. There's many, many different, but I think those are some of the most common ones that most women will experience in perimenopause.
And those are all linked to the fluctuation in our hormones.
Yes, it's in perimenopause, because the hormones are more on this kind of roller coaster. Your symptoms will vary quite considerably from month to month. And as you go into menopause, it's very individual, but when you stop menstruating, your hormone levels will decline, and the symptoms can get better, or they can become more manageable. And it's the same in postmenopause, that the majority of women say once they get into postmenopause that the symptoms tend to fade away. But in saying that, you can still have them. There's women that still carry on having them for 10 years into postmenopause. So that it's just so individual.
Got it. Yeah, that's I was just thinking about that. I was like, in postmenopause, is there a point when your body kind of reaches some sort of stability hormonally, and then you just kind of normalize and you stop having these symptoms, or do they? But it really depends on the person, like you said. It's
Yeah, it really depends. And it's also that you have to remember that your estrogen levels are now, your ovaries are not producing estrogen anymore. So you don't have that level of estrogen. And we have something on our, they actually sit on top of the kidneys called the adrenal glands, and they produce a small amount of estrogen because, I mean, your body's a clever thing, isn't it? It realizes that we need estrogen. So it produces a small amount to keep you healthy and keep things ticking over. So you do have that estrogen, but not in the level that you have before.
right. Okay. So perimenopause, you're going to start these symptoms. Your hormones are fluctuating up and down. You're not just decreasing. So you're going to start getting all these types of symptoms. And then your period stops for 12 months. Then you're in menopause, and the symptoms can subside or may not, depending on your individual body. And then you reach postmenopause, and again, they could subside even more or not, depending on your individual body. So
that's it, really.
so that's interesting. All right, so now let's get into a few of the symptoms that occur during this transition, and specifically, we'll be learning about how our skin and hair are affected and the ways we can help improve them both during this phase of our life. And we'll be learning some great ways to manage hot flashes. Now, with the first phase, perimenopause, are there any preventative steps as far as like diet and lifestyle changes we can take as we get closer to maybe that age range to kind of prepare for it? Like, should we be doing anything in preparation?
Yeah, thanks. That is such a great question, because I don't actually get asked that question very often, and it's so relevant, isn't it, really? Because if you can do things to, you're not obviously not going to prevent this happening. If you can do things to get through it better, then it's brilliant. And yes, there are absolutely things that you can do. And one of the things that I say to my clients is that, knowledge, understand what is happening to you, because knowledge is power. And I don't know how it is in the US, but in Europe, it started a few years ago. There is a menopause revolution going on here. And women are really, want to know what is happening. Why aren't I getting the help that I need? So, when they go, for example, to see a doctor, they have a big list of, okay, these are the symptoms I'm having. I know this, and I know that this is related to menopause. I want help with this. And because the doctors in general don't have that much knowledge on menopause. So power in knowledge, that's definitely a good thing, because then you can help yourself and you can get the support that you need through these times. And then, the lifestyle choices. When you go into perimenopause and menopause, you really have to start thinking about bone health and also heart health, because we lose bone density when our estrogen levels start to decline. And this, obviously, you don't want this to happen. And it can lead to, if you don't look after yourself, osteoporosis. So what you can do for that is, you want to think about doing strength exercises. You really want to keep your bones strong. So doing strength exercises before you even get into perimenopause. Because if you go into perimenopause in a strong physical state and your body's healthy, you can handle it, you can tackle it much better than you would if you're going into it feeling maybe unhealthy or not having such strong bones. Because there's actually research saying that if your bone density is strong when you go into perimenopause, that you will have a lower risk of developing osteoporosis. So, you really need to look after your bones. Calcium, as we all know, is a big key to bone health. So your strength exercises, calcium, getting calcium in your diet, and that you can get from green leafy vegetables, dairy, sardines and salmon, legumes. But an interesting thing about calcium is that you want to combine that with vitamin D and also vitamin K2, because they all help. They all come together for bone health. So you really need to be thinking about those things together to give your bones, the real boost. And then obviously, as I said, exercise is a huge thing in bone health. Another issue, or another big thing that you should think about to prepare yourself, is stress management. And I mean, I know everyone talks about stress, don't they? Manage stress, but what happens in your body when you're stressed? When in today's society, we're all under, not all of us, but a very high percentage of people are under chronic stress, and this releases cortisol, the stress hormones, and this just has an effect on so many different things in the body. So managing your stress is crucial to overall health, and how you do that. But I always say that stress management shouldn't be stressful. Mm-hmm. It's so difficult, isn't it? If I'm talking to somebody and saying you need to manage your stress, you need to start doing yoga, you need to start doing meditation, they're probably going to think, well, hold on a minute, I haven't got time for that. And they're going to find that stressful. So find something that suits you, even if it's just 5-10 minutes a day, something that you just breathing is a brilliant stress relief, just taking a few deep breaths. So stress relief, avoiding alcohol and smoking isn't going to benefit your hormonal health and going into perimenopause in any way. And sleep, of course, getting a good amount of sleep, and also weight management, because it's been shown in research that if you're carrying extra weight, you can't say definitely, but there's more likelihood that you will suffer worse with certain symptoms, such as hot flashes have been shown to be worse in ladies that are carrying extra weight. So thinking about weight management, exercise, we've said, and sleep hygiene. And also another interesting thing is your pelvic floor. Pelvic floor exercises you really need to think of doing, because as we get older, that area can become weaken, and that can cause leakage and intermittent incontinence. So doing your pelvic floor exercises is really, really crucial to just making sure that you have a happy perimenopause and menopause. But preparation is great. I really like that question, because it's all about prevention, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, thank you. Those are really great things we can all implement, and really great information to, keep in mind. And yeah, so it's having the awareness and having some tools that we can minimize and mitigate. That's really everything. And like you said, the knowledge is power. Now, the decline in estrogen during perimenopause and menopause can also have a significant effect on our skin, which you've experienced throughout, being an esthetician and with what you do now. So what happens to our skin during perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah, the skin, that is an area that you can really start noticing. And I think the one thing that, we none of us want to admit that we're vain, but we all are, really, aren't we? And the main thing that I see when I was working as an esthetician was that ladies were concerned about fine lines and wrinkles developing. They were saying, all of a sudden I just woke up one morning and I just see the lines appearing. And, when you know what estrogen does to the skin, you can really start to understand that. And estrogen has many effects on the skin, and we have estrogen receptors all over the body, including the skin, and these receptors that they all have, they take on the estrogen, and the estrogen is like a chemical messenger. It's a hormone, and it has an effect on that area. Estrogen is needed for holding moisture in the skin, so keeping the skin nice and plump, that real toned look. It's needed in the production of collagen and elastin, which we all know, keeps the skin firm. It's like the building blocks of the skin. It also regulates sebaceous flow, so it regulates the sebum, which is the oil on the skin, which stops your skin becoming dry, because you can find that your skin becomes dry and can be quite sensitive and irritated as estrogen levels decline. And it also has an effect on skin thickness. And again, you can see in older ladies that the skin becomes quite thin. Almost in some people, you can see it becomes quite see-through. And an really interesting fact is that research that they've done on skin thickness during perimenopause and menopause, that the thickness of your skin when you go into menopause can be a predictor of your osteoporosis risk. So I thought that was fascinating. So the estrogen is needed for the skin. It keeps us looking young and fresh and glowing.
Absolutely. No, that's interesting. So a lot of it's like preparation, like you mentioned, the amount of body fat we have can affect it. Now, the kind of thickness of the skin is kind of a indicator. So it's a lot of keeping healthy as we go into that phase. Now, the good news is there's many things we can do to improve our menopausal skin, and this is what you do with working with women to help them do so. So let's start with diet. What are some of the foods we can incorporate to counteract the effects of menopausal skin?
Yeah. One thing that we don't really eat enough of is protein. It tends to get forgotten a bit, protein. And protein is the building blocks of the body. And that is needed to give the skin structure. It's needed to produce all the things that the skin needs. So when I say protein, I mean things like, chicken, meat. If you don't eat meat, looking at soya, tofu, different alternatives to meat, dairy, yogurt, all that's your proper fish. And really, you should have protein with every meal, and roughly about a palm size of protein with every meal. So it's crucial, protein. It's crucial not just for skin health, for overall health, but it's something that we tend to, especially women, tend to forget to eat enough protein. And it also keeps you satisfied a lot longer. So you don't tend to eat as much if you've been eating protein. So protein's key. Another area that really is fascinating is the gut health, how our gut health affects so many different parts of the body, including the skin. And a lot of that is to do with the microbiome, so the gut bacteria, which again, there is so much research coming out on this now, which is wonderful, because we're starting to really understand the effects that it has on the body. But keeping your gut health in good condition by eating all the fermented foods, such as sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir that you can drink, your live yogurts. That's what we call probiotics. They're the good bacteria, and they're what your stomach and gut likes. And this has an effect on your skin because they help to reduce inflammation. And if your gut's healthy, the skin will glow. You can always see, someone's got good digestion and good gut health always looks really healthy, and that shows in the skin. And it will also enable you to absorb all the nutrients that you need, so you're not deficient in certain vitamins and minerals that you need for skin health. So gut health is a big thing, or eating all your antioxidant foods. So we say eat a rainbow of colors. So all your wonderful vegetables and fruits, because they contain your antioxidant phytonutrients that are fantastic for your skin. So they're key. And water, do we drink enough water? Everybody knows they should, but we don't always drink as much as we should. So water is key to skin health, because we need to hydrate. And if you're dehydrated, it will show in your skin. So I like to say roughly around 8 glasses a day, but that is individual depending. If you're someone that works out a lot or is very active, then you may well need more than that. There's one area there's one thing called, it sounds horrible, but it's called sugar sag.
Okay.
And this is talking about what we should eat for our skin. One thing that you should avoid is sugar and processed foods, all the what we call the standard American diet type foods, which is your highly processed refined foods full of sugar. And this can cause something called sugar sag, because what happens basically when you eat these sugary foods, it breaks down the collagen in your skin gradually. It's a process called glycation, and without getting too scientific, this is when protein and glucose come together, and this is called glycation. It produces glycation end products, and these can cause aging on the skin. So I think the word sugar sag, it's very descriptive, isn't it? It kind of makes you want to stop eating sugar.
Absolutely. I was thinking that. I'm like, that isn't I've never heard that before. And that's such a wonderful way to get people to stop. So
no, exactly.
Stop eating sugar and, processed foods.
Yeah, sugar sag. So
we don't want sugar sag.
Yeah. No, so that's the foods that I would recommend, and getting all your lovely vitamins, all your vitamins and minerals, and you will get that from a varied diet. So it's all about variation, more of what we call a Mediterranean style diet, which is vegetables, fruit, all your healthy oils like your olive oil, your avocados, nuts and seeds, legumes, so beans and peas and everything, and fish, and then moderate amounts of red meat. So that way of eating, that style of eating has been shown in research to benefit not only skin health but overall health.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've just switched my diet around recently and, did all the food sensitivity testing and started incorporating, at least trying to incorporate 30 different species a week of my macros and micros. And oh, what a difference. And I realized I wasn't getting enough fats. Fats are definitely key that, I feel a lot of us forget about, all the healthy, good fats.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think fats have had such a hard time, haven't they? When I was growing up in the 70s, we were going through that like total, fat. No, you don't eat fat. Totally. Everything was low fat and laden with sugar.
Yes. It's like fats got the rap for sugar.
Yeah, they did. And now carbs are getting the rap, aren't they? So everything's low carb, and fats have come back in fashion.
Yes, exactly. It's interesting. One of my shows, we were talking about all these fads that keep kind of doing these little tricks and these little campaigns against different types of healthy foods that are good for us. But it's never processed foods. But we're gonna create a hashtag now, sugar sag.
Sugar sag, yeah. I think one thing that everybody, probably I'm sure there's somebody that will disagree with me, but virtually everybody, including like science, agrees that fruit and vegetables are good for you. That's probably about the only thing that people will agree on.
Yeah, hopefully. You never know these days. Now, you also work with lifestyle modifications. What are some of the lifestyle modifications that can also help with menopausal skin symptoms?
Yeah. one thing that we haven't spoke about is sun, because what can happen with perimenopause and menopause, you can suddenly start seeing like what we call hyperpigmentation, so like dark pigmentation spots on the skin. And this really, it's predominantly to do with it, when how you've behaved when you were younger catches up with you when you get older. So if you were somebody that was a sun worshipper, you know, this will start to show in your skin when you're older. You know, we must forget that we can't blame everything on perimenopause and menopause. It is also part of the aging process. Right. So one thing lifestyle wise, I would say is protect your skin against the sun. You know, the sun is great and we need the sun for many reasons, but you need to protect your skin with a good sun protection factor, at least sun protection 30, because researchers suggested that anything under that doesn't give you the protection that you need. So using a good day cream, most good skincare products now have sun screen in, so that is a really good lifestyle tip. And then, you know, avoiding smoking and alcohol. No big surprise there. Sleep is crucial for your skin. You know, you can see if you've had a bad night's sleep or you've maybe been up late or whatever, it shows in your skin totally. And it's the same with stress. People that are stressed, that are constantly producing these stress hormones, it really shows it in the skin. Gut health, you know, keeping that on track. And also one thing I always say to my clients is like, try to be positive and happy, because you will say to people, oh, you look glowing, and people that look glowing are normally very happy and very positive. So try to, you know, have a positive outlook on life rather than being, you know, looking at the negative side of things. And that helps skin because it releases different hormones. It releases happy hormones. Even smiling releases hormones that affect the way that you feel.
Interesting. Yeah, we want to not keep releasing cortisol constantly and stress hormones, especially when our hormones are going wild during those periods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in all three of these phases in this life transitions, our hair can also be affected as well as our skin. So our hair health, our hair growth, we can have hair loss, growth changes, we can grow hair in places we don't want it to grow. What are some of the things we can do to help kind of minimize these symptoms and keep our hair healthy during this period of our lives?
Yeah, great question, because that is an area that can be very stressful for women, because it is quite, you can experience hair loss. You can experience the condition of your hair. It becomes drier. It doesn't, but it's quite as luscious as it used to be. And this again is down to estrogen, the hormone decline in hormones, and also testosterone can play a role here. When estrogen levels decline during menopause, what can happen is it's that the hair growth cycle can shorten, because estrogen's needed for the hair cycle. So you can find that your hair doesn't quite grow as long or as much as it used to. And when you brush your hair or when you're showering, you can see that there's more hair, you know, in the shower or in your brush. But one thing that can aggravate this, and maybe you don't always think of during menopause, is thyroid problems. So if you are experiencing hair loss, I would always get that looked at or checked up by a doctor, because your thyroid hormone can have an effect on hair. So it's always better to get that looked at first. We're going back to stress again for hair health. Reducing stress is to hair health. Iron, so nutrients such as iron, a lot of the time if someone's having problems with their hair, they could be deficient in iron, because iron is really needed for hair. health. And what happens is when your body is producing the stress hormones, your body prioritizes stress hormones. So remember me saying that the adrenal glands produced estrogen when we go into menopause. What happens is if you're constantly stressed, your adrenal glands prioritize producing stress hormones. So the estrogen and the progesterone that your adrenal glands produce kind of gets put on the back burner. So you will be producing even less estrogen because of the cortisol, and this will have an effect on your hair condition and growth of your hair. As far as your hair, it grows where we don't want it. You can start noticing it maybe on the chin, on the upper lip area, and this can be to do with when your estrogen and progesterone levels start to decline, testosterone can kind of take over. It can become a bit more dominant, and this can cause facial hair, which, you know, it's not nice, is it?
It's not ideal.
No.
Doesn't make us feel great.
No, it doesn't make you feel great. But the good news is that there are things that you can do for facial hair growth, so you don't have to put up with it. There's so many wonderful aesthetic treatments such as laser, which is a permanent form of hair removal. It could take a few sessions, but it is permanent. And then you've got epilation, where you actually, that's more suitable really if you've just got the odd hair coming out of your chin or upper lip. But that's where you actually go into the hair follicle with it's like a needle, and you cauterize the root of the hair. And again, it can take a few sessions, but that would be permanent. Because if you're plucking the hair or waxing the hair, you're not, you know, that it will come back.
Yeah.
So get professional help. Go to a registered esthetician and that has worked with, you know, hair removal, because you don't have to put up with that.
Yeah, we at this point with technology, we can get rid of it for good. It's interesting.
Yeah.
We touched on stress with our hair. I remember quite a while ago reading an article about stress and hair loss, and it was talking about how when we're stressed, we tense our scalp, and that can squeeze the hair follicles. I don't know if it's true, but they were talking about doing this exercise where you close your eyes and just, you know, consciously relax your scalp. Let's say I'm relaxing my scalp, and just visualize and really focus on relaxing your scalp to not have your hair follicles be squeezed from stress.
That's fascinating. That's really interesting. I'm sure that, because I mean, it's stress, it just affects every area of the body, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's so different. Stress and the gut microbiome. Now, hot flashes or flushes, depending where you live, they're a common symptom of menopausal transition. So what are some of the lifestyle changes that can help us kind of mitigate and improve hot flashes and help us manage them? Yeah,
the hot flashes are a huge problem for many women. It's probably one of the most common symptoms. 75% of women will suffer from in different degrees. You know, some women have terrible problems with them. They can't sleep, and, you know, it's just a vicious circle. You can't sleep, so you feel worse and everything.
What's kind of what's the experience of it, if you can kind of describe?
It's like, I know myself, because I'm in perimenopause. It's like a wave of, for me, it starts in your legs, and it's kind of like a wave of heat that just travels through your whole body, and you can start to perspire. You can just feel extremely hot. It's like this fire of heat that just overtakes your body, and it can pass quite quickly or not, depending on you know, the individual person. But it's just makes you feel extremely, it's like a wave of heat going through your body that makes you sweat and perspire.
Got it. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. Something for you to look forward to. So things that you can do. One thing that you really want to think about with hot flashes is notice your triggers, because there are certain foods, and that can be quite individual, that trigger them. Alcohol is a big thing that a lot of women, when they get slightly older and go into menopause, they actually stop drinking. Wow. I hear that quite regularly, because they just say it's just not worth it, the way that it makes me feel, and it really makes my symptoms worse. So they stop drinking, and alcohol is known to make hot flashes worse. So find your triggers. Spicy foods as well can trigger hot flashes. So just keeping a food diary is quite interesting, even if you just do it for a few days. To, you know, if you've eaten something, then all of a sudden you get a hot flash, just make a note there, because then you can actually avoid those foods if they're as a actual trigger. And sleeping in a cool room is crucial, because hot flashes can be quite intense at night sometimes. So really having a cool room. And there's something, actually, I've not tried this myself, but my hot flashes aren't so bad, but a friend of mine has bought it's like a cooling blanket. It's I think they call it like an ice blanket or a cooling blanket, and she said it's absolutely amazing. And you have it over yourself at night, and it just cools your body temperature down. So, you know, things like that, get the help that you need. Drinking water is crucial. And then going back to the usual, to avoid all the processed sugary foods, because they don't do you any favors. They cause inflammation, they aggravate hot flashes. That weight gain is a big issue with hot flashes as well. That the people that carry extra weight, it's been shown in studies that they can have worse experiences through menopause with hot flashes. Interesting.
And are there any dietary supplements that can help with hot flashes?
There's a lot. That's such a huge question, because there's so many different supplements for menopause. Okay. You know, it's a very big area, and you know, there's lots of different types of herbs. There's phytoestrogens. There's many different products that you can buy for menopause.
And if there's something that
there's not one supplement that I would say, yes, get that, because I think it's so individual. And I think if you can manage it by real food, try that first. I mean, of course, if you have deficiencies in certain supplements, then you absolutely, you know, would in certain minerals and vitamins, then you would need to take supplements. But find that out first before you just start taking lots of supplements, because one, they cost a fortune to take, and two, you don't really know what's in them. Supplements aren't regulated.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if they are in the US, but in Europe, they're not regulated like medications are.
No, they're not. And yeah, that's a great point. And that's why it's important to work with somebody like you, along with your doctor, so you can kind of pinpoint, you know, start with your diet and then figure out exactly, because everybody's body's different. Everybody needs something different, and really figure out what you need specifically.
Mm-hmm. But phytoestrogens actually are very interesting, because you can get those through your diet. They're plant-based estrogens, and they're in things like flax seeds is a great source of phytoestrogens. And it's still a bit unclear in studies, but they have a weak estrogenic effect, because they have a similar chemical structure to estrogen, but they won't replace, they're not going to replace the estrogen, but they have a similar structure. And some studies have shown that they have a weak action like estrogen. So eating foods that are rich in phytoestrogens are beneficial during menopause. Flax seeds, all your soya products, beans, and things like that have phytoestrogen, because there's a lot. It made me think when you were talking about supplements, there's a lot of supplements that have phytoestrogens in for menopause.
So we can get them from foods specifically.
Absolutely, you can get them from foods. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's really good information about. Now you also write about mind-body techniques that can help with hot flashes, which I love. What are a few of the great techniques that can help ease them that you found?
Yeah, meditation is if I know it's difficult for people to meditate. Not everybody can really get their head around meditation, but what I say, if you just do it for 5 minutes, you don't have to start meditating for an hour every day. And there's some wonderful apps and tools that you can download to really help with that. So meditation is, because it kind of gives you back the control over your body. Breathing is wonderful for hot flashes. If you feel, a lot of ladies that suffer from them can really, they know when they're coming. You kind of get a warning, you can feel this wave about to start. If you start doing breathing techniques, just breathing in for the count of 5, holding your breath for a few seconds, and then just breathing out slowly. If you do that a few times, it really helps to relax your nervous system,
right,
which can have an effect and make the symptom, some women say that it actually prevents the hot flashes from coming. So breathing is key, and that is something that we all forget about. Breathing, we don't breathe like we should.
Yes. And I would assume that would kind of get you from getting too much into your fight or flight, and
yeah, exactly.
So you're kind of preventing that, and you're kind of staying in more of the homeostasis as much as possible.
Yeah, it's so true, because when you're having, if you're having a hot flash, then you think, oh no, it's coming. Maybe you're at work, or in a situation where you're not on your own, and that triggers off the stress reaction, doesn't it? The anxiety, which will in turn will make the hot flash worse. So breathing, just breathe. And yoga is a wonderful practice to do, to really just calm the body down and get control back, and just be in tune with your mind and your body is can really help women through this difficult time period.
Now, for those that would like to connect with you and work with you, where can we find you? And can you also tell us what types of programs you offer? Because I know you offer several different types, and what other great resources can we find on your website?
Yeah, thank you, Christy. My the best way to get in contact with me is through my website, and my website is www.alisonblard.com. So that's just my name.com. And on my website, I have some nice ebooks that can give you meal plans and shopping lists and recipes. There's a great one for skin health on my blog, and there's also one for hair health there. And there's other ones there's a Get Back Your Sparkle program to help regain and get back control of your body, because sometimes you feel in menopause you're kind of losing control a bit. I work on a one-to-one basis with my clients, and I offer programs. They're very individual depending on what the person needs, but I have a 30 and a 60-day program where we go into a very in-depth consultation. I work with something called the functional medicine model, where you're really looking at the root causes of the problems. You're not just fixing the problem, you're actually getting down to why it's happening in the first place. And that is that's what we do in the health consultation. And then I work together with my clients, developing a program individually for you that you need. And it's nutrition, lifestyle, and support. It's giving you the support. So we would have a talk once a week, for 30 minutes, seeing how you're getting on, going through if we need to change anything. I will give supplement advice and also functional testing if needed, depending on the client. And I'm active on social media. I'm on Instagram at Alison Blard, and I have an active Twitter account called Pink Tea Room. It's quite a fun hub for ladies. So we talk about everything hormone related there. So
love the name.
Yeah, no, I like that. I just want it to be a bit fun rather than, I think menopause, the name menopause is very, it just kind of conjures up. It's not very exciting, is it? It quite drab.
Right. And it doesn't have to be. I mean, there's challenges for sure, but there are from talking to you over this last little bit, there are a lot of solutions that we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, it isn't always a difficult time. Some women just glide through it and they're perfectly okay. So it is very individual. But, like I said before, I just think women are amazing, and we should be amazing when we get to this age.
Absolutely. And yeah, I looked over your website and you have so many incredible recipes and really great information. So definitely go check out our website if you want to get some really good recipes, some healthy stuff, and just learn a lot more about menopause and perimenopause and skin care and hair care and overall health. And I'll post a link below to her website and all her contacts. Before we wrap up the show today, do you have any final thoughts or words for those who are in the midst of menopause and this transition in their life?
Yeah, I would say prioritize yourself. It is actually okay to put yourself first. Prioritize yourself and get the help that you need. I think women, we're very good at, we're carers, aren't we? We're always looking after everybody else. And putting yourself first and getting the support you need, and really, concentrating on and eating a Mediterranean style diet is the best way forward, really. And asking for help. It's okay to ask for help and get the support that you need to get back your sparkle.
Yes, get back your sparkle. She will help you do that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. That was such an incredible conversation. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and knowledge on menopause and ways to mitigate the symptoms. As I said at the top of the show, this is, it's something we don't talk enough about, and most of us don't know a lot of the details until we're kind of in the midst of it. So I'm so glad that I could have you on here and we can have this conversation. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Chrissy. It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your body, the better you're able to stay healthy and prevent disease. And a reminder, I'm not your doctor, so please don't take this as medical advice. If you have specific questions about your healthcare, feel free to reach out to your practitioner. And if you like this video, please like and share it with others. This information could really help someone you may know. And also hit that subscribe button to be sure you don't miss out on our future shows. And stay tuned for the next episode of Discovering True Health.